The stars went dark over New York first, then Beijing, then Moscow. By the time the massive ships appeared over every major city on Earth, humanity had already begun to understand. We were no longer alone, and we were no longer the masters of our own destiny. The vessels hung in the sky like obsidian mountains, their surfaces rippling with patterns of deep purple energy that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Each ship was roughly the size of Manhattan, their presence casting literal and metaphorical shadows over humanity's greatest achievements. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the United Nations Emergency Session Chamber, her hands trembling slightly as she adjusted her glasses. As Earth's leading xenolinguist and the architect of the Universal Translation Matrix, she had spent her entire career preparing for this moment. Yet nothing could have truly prepared her for the reality of first contact. The hologram floating above the podium showed what the aliens called themselves, the Galactic Confederation. Their representative, a towering figure with crystalline features that seemed to shift and change with each movement, spoke through the translation matrix with perfect clarity. Your species has been observed for the past 300 years. The being, who called itself Archon-Vex, announced, "The Confederation has determined that humanity has reached the threshold for integration. You will be assimilated into our collective, your resources and populations managed for the greater good of galactic civilization." The chamber erupted in a cacophony of voices, but Sarah remained focused on the subtle variations in the alien's crystalline structure. Something wasn't right. The translation was perfect, but there were underlying frequencies in the alien's communication that her matrix wasn't designed to detect. In the chaos that followed, few noticed the small data crystal that materialized on Sarah's podium. Fewer still would have recognized it as a Confederation secure communication device. But Sarah did, having spent years studying recovered alien artifacts that had been dismissed as space debris. That night, in her secure lab beneath the Atacama Desert, Sarah activated the crystal. A different alien appeared, this one smaller, with features that seemed almost liquid in their constant motion. "I am Nexus," it said, "and I risk everything to warn you. The Confederation lies. Integration is extinction. They fear what humanity might become." The alien's form rippled with what Sarah interpreted as anxiety. "Your species has something we've never seen before. Neuroplasticity that exceeds anything in known space. Your ability to adapt, to change, to evolve your thinking. It terrifies them. The Confederation maintains order through stagnation. Humanity represents chaos, evolution, change." Sarah's mind raced with implications. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because in all our history, we've never encountered a species that could do what yours does naturally, rewrite its own neural pathways in response to new information. The Confederation calls it a disorder. I call it the future." Nexus's form shimmered. "They will try to cure humanity of this gift. They will fail. And in failing, they will destroy you rather than risk what you might become." The alien transmitted a massive data package, technical specifications, defense capabilities, strategic weaknesses. "You have 14 Earth days before the integration protocols begin. The process cannot be reversed once it starts. Use this information wisely." As the transmission ended, Sarah sat in her darkened lab, the weight of humanity's future pressing down on her shoulders. The data crystal contained everything humanity would need to resist, but it also confirmed humanity's greatest fear. We were not alone in the universe, and our first visitors had come not in peace, but with extinction on their minds. She opened a secure channel to the UN Security Council. Humanity had 2 weeks to prepare for a war nobody had seen coming, against an enemy that had been spacefaring when our ancestors were still learning to make fire. But we had something they didn't expect, something they couldn't comprehend, the very thing that made them fear us. As she transmitted the alien data, Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. The Confederation thought they were coming to cure humanity of its neural disorder. Instead, they were about to learn why evolution had given it to us in the first place. The stars might have gone dark over Earth's cities, But humanity's light was about to burn brighter than ever before. The underground facility beneath Mount Cheyenne buzzed with an energy that bordered on desperation. Dr. Sarah Chen watched through reinforced glass as test subject after test subject interfaced with the reverse-engineered Confederation technology. The neural interface chamber glowed with an eerie blue light, casting strange shadows across the faces of the assembled scientists and military personnel. Major James Harrison, her military liaison, stood beside her, his face illuminated by the holographic displays showing real-time neural activity. "How many successful interfaces so far?" he asked, though they both knew the answer. "All of them," Sarah replied, unable to keep the hint of triumph from her voice. 100% adaptation rate. The Confederation's systems were designed to interface with crystalline neural structures, rigid, unchanging pathways, but human brains. She gestured to the displays where kaleidoscopic patterns of neural activity danced across the screens. "We don't just adapt to their technology," Harrison finished. "We improve it." The discovery had come 3 days after Sarah's warning. A young engineer, testing the salvaged Confederation defense systems, had accidentally triggered a neural feedback loop. Instead of frying his brain, as similar accidents had done to other species, his neural pathways had reconfigured themselves. The machine adapted to them, and he to it, creating something entirely new. Now, with just 9 days remaining before the Confederation's integration was set to begin, humanity had its answer. The very neural plasticity that the Confederation feared had become their greatest weapon. "Show me the latest test results," Harrison commanded, and Sarah pulled up the combat simulation data. The hologram filled the room with a recreation of their first breakthrough. A human pilot, neural interface fully engaged, flying a hybrid craft that was part Earth technology, part salvaged Confederation systems. The ship moved in ways that should have been impossible, responding to the pilot's thoughts before they were even fully formed. The Confederation built their technology to be perfect, unchanging, Sarah explained. But perfection is stagnation. Human minds are messy, constantly changing, evolving. When we interface with their tech, we don't just use it, we transform it. A junior scientist burst into the observation room, tablet in hand. "Dr. Chen, the quantum entanglement tests. You need to see this." Sarah took the tablet, her eyes widening as she scrolled through the data. "What is it?" Harrison demanded. "Their quantum communication network. We're not just accessing it, we're rewriting it." Sarah's hands flew over the controls, bringing up new displays. The Confederation uses quantum entanglement for instant communication across space. It's supposed to be impossible to intercept or modify. But our neural patterns, they're creating new quantum states that shouldn't exist. Harrison leaned closer, his military training warring with awe. "In English, Doctor. We can hijack their entire command and control system. Not just listen in. We can feed them false information, and they'll have no way to detect it." Sarah's voice trembled with the implications. Their greatest strength is about to become their greatest weakness. But victory wasn't assured. In the testing chamber below, another subject initiated neural interface. The room hummed with power as human consciousness met alien technology. They had the advantage, yes, but they were still outnumbered, outgunned, and racing against time. Sarah pulled up the global defense grid status. All around the world, other facilities like this one were running similar tests. Humanity's military forces were being reorganized around their new capabilities. Traditional weapons were being modified with hybrid interfaces. Every human pilot, every soldier, every operator was being trained to use their natural neural plasticity as a weapon. 6 billion minds, Harrison mused, watching the global activity feeds. 6 billion potential weapons they never saw coming. Sarah nodded, but her expression remained grave. "The question is, will it be enough? The Confederation has had millennia to perfect their technology. We have days. But that's exactly why we'll win," Harrison countered. They've spent thousands of years perfecting a system that's about to be turned against them. They chose stagnation. We chose evolution. And now they're going to learn what that really means. In the chamber below, the test subject's neural patterns stabilized, showing perfect integration with systems that, by all rights, should have been incompatible with human consciousness. Another success. Another weapon in humanity's arsenal. Sarah checked the countdown timer that had become a fixture in every facility worldwide. 8 days, 14 hours until the Confederation began their integration. 8 days to prepare for a war unlike any humanity had ever fought. A war where the battlefield wasn't just space or Earth's skies, but the very nature of consciousness itself. The Confederation had come to cure humanity of its greatest gift. Instead, they were about to face an enemy that could turn their own perfect technology against them in ways they had never imagined possible. The question wasn't whether humanity could fight back. It was whether the Confederation would realize their mistake before it was too late. The massive Confederation warship emerged from quantum space directly above the Atlantic, its crystalline surface reflecting the morning sun like a stark reminder of humanity's technological inferiority. Captain Elena Rodriguez watched from the bridge of the U.S. Prometheus, Earth's first neural hybrid warship, as dozens more Confederation vessels followed their flagship through the quantum breach. "They're right on schedule," she muttered, her neural interface humming with accumulated data from the fleet's sensors. Through the hybrid systems, she could feel rather than see the positions of every ship in Earth's hastily assembled defense force. A mix of converted civilian vessels and experimental craft, all retrofitted with the reverse-engineered Confederation technology. Dr. Sarah Chen's voice came through the quantum comm. Another piece of stolen technology that humanity had made their own. The Confederation's quantum signature matches our projections. They have no idea we've compromised their systems. Elena allowed herself a grim smile. The element of surprise was all they had. That, and humanity's unique ability to adapt. All ships maintain emissions control. Let them think we're still primitive. Wait for my signal. The Confederation fleet moved with mathematical precision, their formation a perfect geometric pattern that spoke of millennia of unchanged military doctrine. Their first communication came as expected, broadcast on all frequencies in their crystalline language. "People of Earth, the integration begins now. Maintain your positions. Any resistance will be met with immediate correction." Elena gave them exactly 10 seconds to feel confident in their superiority. Then she sent the neural command that humanity had been preparing for the past 2 weeks. Now, across the globe, every human neural interface activated simultaneously. The quantum network that the Confederation relied on for coordination suddenly became alive with billions of chaotic human neural patterns. Their perfect crystalline communication system, designed for order and precision, was overwhelmed by the anarchic creativity of human consciousness. Through her neural link, Elena felt the confusion ripple through the enemy fleet. Their ships, suddenly cut off from their quantum network, began to move erratically. The perfect formation dissolved into chaos. "All ships, execute Operation Chaos," Elena commanded. The human fleet burst into action, moving in patterns that would have been impossible for traditional pilots. Each ship was guided not just by its crew's conscious thoughts, but by their intuitive responses, their neural plasticity allowing them to react faster than any conventional combat system. The first Confederation ship fell to a barrage of hybrid weapons. Earth missiles guided by human neural patterns, capable of adapting their trajectory in ways that the Confederation's defensive algorithms couldn't predict. The crystalline vessel shattered like glass, its perfect structure unable to adapt to the chaotic attack. "They're trying to re-establish their quantum network," Sarah reported from her command center. "But every time they find a stable frequency, our neural patterns disrupt it. They can't coordinate their defense." Elena pushed her consciousness deeper into the Prometheus's systems, feeling the ship respond to her thoughts with increasing sophistication. The neural interface was evolving, learning from her responses, creating new capabilities that hadn't existed minutes before. Around her, Other ships in the human fleet were doing the same, each crew's unique neural patterns creating unpredictable variations in their hybrid technology. The Confederation flagship launched a counterattack, its energy weapons cutting through the atmosphere with devastating precision. But the human ships moved like dancers, their trajectories guided by instinct and intuition rather than programmed responses. What looked like chaos to the Confederation was actually humanity's greatest strength, their ability to adapt and improvise in real time. Their shield frequencies are adapting, Sarah warned. They're learning. No, Alina corrected, a fierce pride in her voice. We're learning. They're just following their programming. She broadcast to the fleet, all ships, push your neural interfaces to maximum. Show them what evolution looks like. The battle above Earth became a testament to the power of adaptation over perfection. Human ships, their hybrid technology evolving minute by minute, engaged in combat maneuvers that defied conventional physics. The Confederation's perfect formations and unchanging tactics became their weakness, their inability to adapt making them vulnerable to humanity's constant innovations. As the last Confederation ship retreated through a failing quantum breach, Alina allowed herself to feel the exhaustion that came with prolonged neural interface. They had won this battle, but the war was far from over. The Confederation would return, and next time they would be prepared for humanity's neural advantage. But that was exactly what humanity was counting on, because while the Confederation would spend their time developing countermeasures to what they had seen today, humanity would already have evolved beyond it. The neural interfaces would continue to adapt, the hybrid technology would continue to evolve, and humanity's greatest strength, their ability to change and grow, would only become stronger. Send word to all Earth Defense Forces, Alina commanded. The first battle is ours. But now, the real war begins. Nexus moved through the crystalline corridors of the Confederation's Central Command like a shadow, its liquid form allowing it to pass unnoticed among the rigid structures of its fellow beings. The defeated Earth had sent shockwaves through the Confederation's perfectly ordered society. For the first time in 10,000 years, the unthinkable had happened. They had lost a battle. In a secure chamber deep within the complex, the Confederation's High Council was in session. Nexus positioned itself near a quantum resonance node, allowing Dr. Sarah Chen's consciousness to observe through their secret neural link. The human scientist had become adept at navigating the quantum network, her neural patterns disguised as routine data transfers. The human contamination spreads. First Speaker Vertex announced, its crystalline form pulsing with distress frequencies. Reports from the outer sectors indicate increasing instances of unauthorized neural pattern variations among our populations. The revelation sent ripples of alarm through the assembled council members. What they feared most was happening. Exposure to human neural patterns during the battle had caused some Confederation citizens to begin exhibiting similar adaptability. The rigid perfection of their society was showing its first cracks. Through their quantum link, Sarah's voice whispered in Nexus's consciousness. It's working exactly as we predicted. They can't stop the spread of ideas any more than they can stop evolution itself. The council chamber erupted in a cascade of competing frequencies as reports flooded in from across Confederation space. A group of young engineers had modified their neural interfaces to allow for greater flexibility. A squadron of Defense Force pilots had begun showing signs of intuitive reasoning during combat drills. Even more alarming, some citizens were beginning to question the fundamental principles of Confederation society. The human neural disorder is more contagious than we anticipated, another council member stated. Their chaos threatens the very foundation of our order. But it wasn't just chaos, it was change, evolution, the very thing the Confederation had spent millennia trying to prevent. The rigid perfection of their technology, once their greatest strength, was becoming their greatest vulnerability. Their citizens, exposed to the possibility of change through contact with human neural patterns, were beginning to evolve. Back on Earth, in her secure facility beneath the Atacama Desert, Sarah monitored the quantum feeds with growing satisfaction. The human resistance hadn't just fought off the Confederation's military. They had introduced a virus of ideas into their perfect society. Each adapted neural pattern, each questioned assumption, each moment of intuitive thinking spread through the quantum network like ripples in a pond. Major Harrison stood at her shoulder, watching the data streams. "How many have been affected?" "It's impossible to get an exact count," Sarah replied. "But our estimates suggest at least 15% of the Confederation's population has begun showing signs of neural plasticity. They're calling it the human disorder, but they can't stop its spread. Every time their citizens interface with their quantum network, they're exposed to new ways of thinking." The implications were staggering. The Confederation had spent thousands of years engineering their society for perfect stability, eliminating chaos and change in favor of unchanging order. But they had never faced an enemy like humanity, a species that thrived on chaos, that evolved through change, that could adapt and grow stronger with each challenge. Nexus transmitted another burst of data through their quantum link. The Confederation's military was in disarray. Their perfect tactics, unchanged for millennia, were failing as more of their own people began to question, to adapt, to think in new ways. The rigid hierarchy that had maintained their order was beginning to fracture. "They'll try to isolate the affected populations," Harrison predicted, studying the tactical displays. "Quarantine entire sectors if they have to." Sarah shook her head. "It's too late for that. Ideas can't be quarantined. Change can't be contained. The more they try to maintain their perfect order, the more it will slip through their fingers." In the council chamber, Nexus watched as the High Council grappled with their worst nightmare. Their society, based on the principle of unchanging perfection, was being transformed from within. The human factor, adaptability, creativity, evolution, was spreading through their quantum network like a revolution written in neural patterns. "We must strike at Earth immediately," First Speaker Vertex declared. "Eliminate the source of this contamination before it destroys everything we have built." But even as the Council made their plans, Nexus could see the truth they couldn't accept. The Confederation had already lost, not to humanity's weapons or technology, but to the very thing they had tried to eliminate from their society. Change had come to the Confederation, carried on the neural patterns of a species they had dismissed as primitive. The war for Earth had become something much larger, a battle between stagnation and evolution, between perfect order and the beautiful chaos of growth. And humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their hybrid technology or their neural interfaces. It was their ability to change, to adapt, to evolve. The question wasn't whether the Confederation would fall, but how many of their own people would embrace the human factor before the end. The quantum storms above Earth painted the sky in impossible colors as two civilizations clashed in what would become known as the Battle of Evolution. The Confederation had returned with their entire fleet, tens of thousands of crystalline warships, their perfect formations stretching from horizon to orbit, a last desperate attempt to stamp out the chaos that humanity had introduced to their ordered universe. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the Global Command Center, her consciousness spread across the quantum network that now linked all of humanity. Through their neural interfaces, she could feel the presence of billions of minds, each contributing their unique patterns to the greatest collective consciousness the universe had ever seen. But unlike the rigid hierarchy of the Confederation, this was a symphony of chaos, a celebration of difference and change. "They're making their final push," Captain Alina Rodriguez reported from the Prometheus, her ship now evolved far beyond its original design. The neural interfaces had continued to adapt, creating technologies that even Sarah's theoretical models hadn't predicted. Each human vessel was unique, shaped by the consciousness of its crew, a direct challenge to the Confederation's doctrine of unchanging perfection. Through their quantum link, Nexus transmitted the final piece of intelligence. The High Council has initiated the purification protocol. They intend to remake Earth's entire solar system into crystalline perfection, eliminating all possibility of change. Sarah had expected this. The Confederation, faced with the ultimate threat to their order, would try to do what they had done to countless other worlds, freeze them in perfect, unchanging stasis. But humanity had spent months preparing for this moment, and they had a surprise of their own. All ships, initiate Operation Evolution, Sarah commanded. Across Earth's defense grid, every neural interface activated simultaneously. But this time, they weren't just disrupting the Confederation's quantum network, they were transforming it. The sky erupted in quantum fire as billions of human neural patterns surged through the Confederation's communication systems. Every human mind connected to the network became a point of change, introducing chaos into their perfect order. But it wasn't random chaos. It was the organized complexity of evolution itself. The quantum storms reached their peak, and in that moment, something new emerged from the chaos. The transformed Confederation ships, their crews awakened to the possibility of change, joined with Earth's defenders. Their crystalline technology, designed for perfect stasis, began to evolve under the influence of human neural patterns. The remaining Loyalist fleet, faced with the combined force of humanity and their own transformed kin, had a choice to make: fight to maintain their perfect, unchanging order, or embrace the beautiful chaos of evolution. In the end, it wasn't really a choice at all. The universe itself was built on change, on growth, on the eternal dance between chaos and order. The Confederation's dream of perfect stasis had been doomed from the start. They had just needed humanity to remind them of this fundamental truth. As the quantum storms subsided, a new dawn broke over Earth. The combined fleet hung in orbit, each ship now unique, transformed by the consciousness of its crew. The rigid hierarchy of the Confederation had given way to something new. A true confederation of minds, united not by enforced perfection, but by the shared adventure of evolution. Sarah stood in the command center, feeling the quantum network pulse with billions of minds, human and alien alike, each contributing their own patterns to the greatest experiment in consciousness the galaxy had ever seen. They had not just survived the Confederation's attempt to cure humanity of its gift for change. They had transformed an entire civilization. What happens now? Major Harrison asked, watching the transformed fleet glittering in Earth's orbit. Sarah smiled, feeling the quantum network alive with possibilities. Now we evolve. Together. And there's no way to predict what we might become. The stars shone down on a galaxy forever changed by humanity's greatest gift, not their technology or their weapons, but their fundamental understanding that perfection isn't found in stasis, but in the endless dance of change and growth that defines all life. The human factor had not just saved Earth, it had awakened the galaxy to the beauty of evolution itself.